Caitlin Clark, the rising face of the WNBA and the Indiana Fever's brightest star, is making headlines, not for her incredible plays or highlight reel moments, but for what appears to be a growing rift with her own team's medical staff. After a string of concerning injuries and unclear communication, it seems Caitlin has finally had enough. Reports are swirling that she's started seeking medical advice outside of the Fever's organization, a move that suggests a deep lack of trust in the team's ability to manage her health. Let's talk about what's actually going on behind the scenes and why this could be a pivotal moment not just for Caitlin Clark, but for the WNBA as a whole. Recently, Fever head coach Stephanie White made some comments that immediately raised eyebrows. When asked about Caitlin's injury status, she didn't say Clark was working with our doctors or even the team medical staff. Instead, she vaguely stated Caitlin would be seeing some doctors and getting more tests done early in the week. That might sound like a small detail, but for anyone familiar with how professional sports teams operate, it was a glaring red flag. This wasn't just a player resting. This was a player actively stepping outside the team's care system. And honestly, who can blame her? Since the beginning of the season, Caitlin Clark has been dealing with a frustrating pattern of groin and quad injuries. First, a left groin strain, then another on the same side, then a right groin issue. It's been one thing after another, and she hasn't been able to string together more than a handful of full games without something flaring up again. That's not just tough luck. When the same injury keeps popping up, it often points to deeper problems, either misdiagnosis, poor rehab protocols, or insufficient recovery timelines. Multiple medical professionals outside of the organization have begun speaking out, questioning how the Fever are handling her situation. Dr. Jesse Morse, a respected voice in sports medicine, publicly called out the treatment Caitlin has been receiving. According to him, the current rehab strategy just isn't cutting it. He even floated more advanced recovery options like stem cell injections and hyperbaric oxygen therapy, options that go far beyond what a standard WNBA team medical unit is typically set up to offer. This situation might sound familiar to fans of other sports, especially those who remember how the Chicago Bulls famously mishandled Derrick Rose's injuries a decade ago. Constant miscommunication, injury setbacks, and eventual fallout. Now the Fever are starting to draw similar criticism. And when your franchise cornerstone doesn't trust your medical team, that's a serious organization-wide issue. To make matters worse, Stephanie White's public messaging has only added to the confusion. One day Caitlin is described as day-to-day, and the next she's being ruled out of key games like the matchup against New York. That contradiction alone suggests a disconnect between coaching, medical evaluation, and player status updates. Either the communication lines within the Fever are broken, or they truly don't know what's going on with their most valuable asset's health. This all came to a head when Clark missed the WNBA All-Star Game, one of the league's biggest showcases. Fans were shocked. Media members were left speculating. And all the while, the team gave little to no explanation that satisfied those watching closely. It's clear that this is no minor injury situation. This is a pattern that's become too serious to ignore. Now Caitlin Clark is reportedly taking control of her own recovery path, looking for second or even third opinions. And again, this isn't unusual in elite sports. NBA stars like LeBron James or Steph Curry have long relied on private health teams to manage their bodies. They don't rely solely on team doctors, especially when dealing with complex or recurring injuries. The difference is that the infrastructure in leagues like the NBA is far more developed than what currently exists in the WNBA. Caitlin's decision could highlight that gap and potentially push the league to raise its medical standards. From a business standpoint, this story is just as critical. Caitlin Clark isn't just another rookie. She's the face of the Indiana Fever and arguably the biggest name in women's basketball today. Her games bring ratings, sell out arenas, and drive jersey sales. If she's sidelined because of recurring injuries that could have been prevented or better managed, it's a massive financial loss, not just for the Fever, but for the league itself. That's why this goes far beyond basketball. It's about the long-term health of the WNBA's most valuable player and how teams are held accountable for caring for their athletes. There's also the psychological and team dynamic aspect to consider. If one player, especially a star, doesn't trust the team's medical staff, it can create a ripple effect. Other players might begin to question the care they're receiving. It can affect team chemistry, locker room trust, and overall morale. And once that trust is gone, it's very hard to rebuild. This situation also opens up a bigger conversation about how women's sports are treated in general. Compared to their male counterparts, WNBA athletes often have fewer resources, shorter off-seasons, and less access to elite-level recovery tools. Caitlin Clark's move to seek outside help might not just be about her own body, it might set a new precedent for how women athletes advocate for themselves in a system that hasn't always prioritized their health. And then there's the legal and financial side. If she's getting outside treatment, who's footing the bill? What happens if there's a complication? These questions may soon need answers, especially if more players follow Caitlin's lead and begin bypassing team-provided care. Long-term, the implications are massive. If Caitlin's external treatments work and she returns stronger, it proves her instincts were right. But even then, the damage to the Fever's reputation is already done. Fans and sponsors will remember that one of the WNBA's brightest stars felt compelled to fire her team's doctors, even unofficially. That's not an easy thing for any franchise to recover from. For the league, this could be a turning point. Maybe this drama will finally push the WNBA to invest more heavily in medical resources, staffing, and player health infrastructure. As the league grows and the spotlight shines brighter, the expectations around athlete care will only increase. The NFL, NBA, and MLB all had to make those leaps. Perhaps now it's the WNBA's turn. In the end, Caitlin Clark's decision to go outside the Fever's medical system may be the smartest move she's made all season. When your body is your career, you don't gamble with it. You protect it at all costs, even if that means challenging the system you're supposed to trust. For Caitlin, the message is simple. Her health comes first. And for the WNBA and the Indiana Fever, the message is clear. It's time to do better. Call to action. What do you think about Caitlin Clark's decision to go outside the team medical staff? Is she right to take control of her health, or should she have stayed within the organization's care? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into WNBA news and player stories.